Great. So let's start the session. Welcome everyone to the joint session on doing business in India. This is mostly in preparation of the Sweden-India Startup Match Day that is taking place next week. But we have also opened it for all startups interested in India. And you will all get to meet and listen to some of our partners that work in the Sweden-India corridor, so to say. I will introduce all the speakers in due time, and we will start off slightly by just going through Ignite Sweden for everybody who doesn't know what it is. Very short, maybe a minute. We'll go through the agenda and then we'll get going with all the speakers. If I seem distracted, it's because I'm letting people into the Zoom room from the waiting room. We'll start by sharing. See if that works. Maybe not. I can start speaking. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Michel Hanna. I work as a project manager and the tech lead of Ignite. I am heading up the Sweden-India collaboration for this year at least, and hopefully for the years to come. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, it's not in full screen yet.
It's not.
Sorry for it. We can see it in presentation mode.
That's weird. 1 second. This always happens, right?
Looks good.
Let's do this without full screen. We'll manage. As I said, just a short introduction of Ignite Sweden, and then Malin Pettersson from Vinnova will be speaking, and then we'll have a multitude of organizations speaking today. So Business Sweden, NASSCOM, Sweden-India Business Council, Confederation of Indian Industry, and we'll end with a Q&A of all the questions that come into the chat during the speaker's time, and then in the end, maybe a short presentation of Ignite if we have the time. So just for everybody who doesn't know, Ignite Sweden is a non-profit organization consisting of around 30 people, established in 2017 with a mission to foster innovation through connecting startups and scale-ups with public and private organizations in Sweden and internationally. So we're founded by some of the leading incubators and science parks in Sweden, and we're connected to them through our member organization, CISP. We are funded by Vinnova, the Sweden Innovation Agency, the Swedish Energy Agency, and some of the private and public sector members. So how we do this is we connect these people and these companies through meetings and meeting days where they have some time to get to know each other, look at synergies, which hopefully end up in some more discussions that lead to some sort of commercial collaboration. I will skip going through the stats and bragging about us, so we can have some time to listen to the people you really came here for. So please, Malin Pettersson from Vinnova.
Thank you, Michel. What happens if you press the full screen at the bottom right?
We'll try. I think if we do this, it might be easier.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Yes.
Great.
Thanks. Great. Right. So on the next slide, please. So I'm Malin Pettersson, and I'm going to share information about R&D funding for Indo-Swedish cooperation. And next, please. And like Michel said, I'm representing Vinnova, Sweden's innovation agency, and our mission, simply put, is to enable innovation that makes a difference. And we believe innovation is more important than ever, and we're running out of time. So let's join hands on this mission. Next, please. One thing I'd recommend you have a look at is EU funding. There's one call open between the EU and India. Well, it's not quite open yet, but it's coming up on the 17th of September. That sounds far ahead, but in fact, these European calls takes quite some time to prepare for. So that might be a really good timing for you. And on the next slide, there's information about the grant that Vinnova offers to help you with this process to prepare for an international grant like this EU offer that I just mentioned. So if you have an idea, business idea, R&D project in mind within any of these areas, you can apply the mentioned areas here on the screen: sustainable industry, societies, precision health, food systems, or mobility. You can apply for funding from Vinnova. And we have several consecutive closing dates. So if you apply before the 4th of June, we'll process your application after that. But there's 2 more closing dates this year. And next slide, please. We also have a travel grant, and this grant is a closed grant that we only offer to certain conferences or trips. And you'll hear about one of these trips later on, I believe, from Cecilia Oldne from Sweden-India Business Council. It's the India-Sweden Innovation Bridge delegation. So if you get accepted to this delegation trip, Vinnova offers a travel grant of 25,000 covering travel expenses such as the flight and the hotel and local transportation. And next, please. And Vinnova regularly also offers larger funding offers, 2.5 million Swedish crowns to the Swedish participants in projects if you partner up with Indian participants. At the moment, we don't have one call like this open, but hopefully shortly we will take a decision on when the next funding offer will come up. So have a look out. We have a LinkedIn group where you find more, where we post information about this, and it's also available on our website. And next slide, please. Another interesting thing is impact innovation. It's a really large investment of ours, and hopefully there'll be some connections with India coming up. I'll share the link already to this initiative and other initiatives in the chat box. So those of you who are interested can have a look. And next, please. And impact innovation, with impact innovation, we really want to accelerate the implementation of the SDGs. And next, please. So this is our LinkedIn group where we share information about all our funding offers and other activities. So please join us. And I think that was all from me. Just have a look at the next slide to make sure. Yes, great. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Malin. You have Malin's contact details. If you have any questions, I'm guessing that's all right to contact you.
Absolutely.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. So we will be continuing with Business Sweden. Cecilia Oskarsson, the Trade Commissioner of Sweden to India at Business Sweden, will be coming to us through a video. She will be talking about the Indian business culture, do's and don'ts, and some other stuff as well. So if I can manage, I'll try to share that video right now. So allow me a few seconds.
Thank you very much.
Let me just make sure that you can hear the sound, sorry.
My name is Cecilia Oskarsson, and I am the Swedish Trade and Invest Commissioner of Sweden to India. Let me start by sharing my screen. I'd like to show you a presentation and also talk a little bit about what is happening in India right now. As we all know, India is an extremely dynamic market, and it will be the fastest growing economy with an expected GDP growth of 6 to 7% 2024. So I will give you a little bit of an overview of India and then move on to talking about doing business in India, and then a little bit touch upon the subject of the difference between India and Swedish business culture. And then lastly, end by discussing a little bit on how we at Business Sweden can help you and support you. So as we said, the GDP growth of India is quite enormous. And India is on its way to become the third largest economy, and it will definitely reach there before 2030, and then surpassing both Japan and Germany, which is now the third and fourth largest economy. India is really emerging as a powerhouse, both on the economic side, but also strategically. And India is probably the only country in the world who can benefit from our four big mega trends: demographic dividends, deglobalization, digitalization, and decarbonization. Demographic dividends, because India is adding no less than 200 million people in the working age population in the coming 20 years. Deglobalization, since the region is looking for an alternative to the manufacturing that has been done traditionally in China. India is definitely a choice there, but also India's domestic market is huge. Digitalization, India really leapfrogged during and after the pandemic when it comes to being a digital country. And lastly, but not least, decarbonization, where India and the Indian companies have realized that a lot needs to be done when it comes to reaching the net zero target. So why is it happening in India right now? Well, apart from the geopolitical situation, we know that India is producing no less than 2 million talented, well-educated STEM graduates each year. And this pool of skilled individuals provides an excellent resource for Swedish companies when they are seeking to establish their operation in India or even develop collaborations. India has also committed to more than $1.5 trillion for infrastructure development. The Gati Shakti National Master Plan for Infrastructure Development is one such example, and that will really provide ready infrastructure environment for national and international companies. And that is truly visible in the country today. India is also one of the fastest it has one of the fastest payment solutions in the world. We can mention both IMPS, but also UPI, which is enabling more than 88 billion digital transactions on an annual basis by volume, which is the highest number in the world. It is also through India's commitment to a green future, where India has set a target of half of the energy consumption and requirements by 2030 should be fossil-free. What we see is that the Indian government has set a target of 2070 to become carbon neutral. However, the Indian companies, the conglomerates and the other, are much more aggressive and has on their own set individual targets, which is much closer in timeline right now. Also, India has a very strategic position, a very long coastline, and the geographical location is definitely an advantage in this global sea route, providing a seamless connectivity with both the Western and Eastern hemisphere. So India has always been a key destination for Swedish companies, and today we have nearly 280 Swedish companies operating across different sectors, such as automotive, telecom, engineering, industrial goods, healthcare, aerospace, and defense, but also IT, digital, and retail. There are multiple sectors, as you hear, which are presents international expansions opportunities, but also sourcing and R&D opportunities for our Swedish companies in India. And we see the opportunities from this sector in three different ways: the traditional, the emerging, and the future sectors. Looking a little bit on the traditional sectors, they have been traditionally strong and stable, has a stable export until date, for example, textile, plastic, pharmaceutical. When it comes to the emerging sectors, there are new sectors witnessing a high investment and export growth in the last 2 to 3 years potential. For instance, auto components, electronics, special chemicals, but also retail. Looking a little bit in the future lens, what we see is that there are a few sectors which are expecting to grow and transitions towards emerging categories, maybe in the next 5 to 6 years. Some examples are new circular materials, space, but also sports tech. In India, there are about 6-7 major economic clusters in the country. And you see them here on the map. So if we start in the north with Delhi National Capital Region, it's a national capital, but it's also then, of course, the government center. But it's home to automotive, electronics, and also IT and software companies. It is fast catching up as a favorite destination for international companies. Passing by Gujarat, Modi's home state, which is a very vibrant state, also growing a lot. We come down to Mumbai in Maharashtra. It's the financial center of India, but also home to India's largest business conglomerates, such as Tata, Mahindra, Reliance, or Aditya Birla. It's also among the biggest ports and especially connected well with the European and Middle East countries. Majority of Swedish companies use this port for their operations. Then moving down to Chennai, we can see that Chennai is really another emerging economic manufacturing cluster for automotive, electronic, but also defense companies. It's also one of the most used ports for international companies. We did have Bangalore between Mumbai and Chennai, and Bangalore is known as Silicon Valley of India. It's the 4th largest technology cluster in the world, and it has home to no less than 200 engineering colleges, and today more than 400 R&D centers. So global companies like Google, Microsoft, Adobe, IBM, Volvo, and Bosch have chosen to place their R&D center in the city. So let's move over, talk about a little bit how are we doing business in India. There are, of course, a few important factors to take in consideration when you are here. You do need to adapt your global business model and practice to succeed here in India. So please remember to empower the local leadership and also commit for long term. But then when you're growing, do it responsibly. Build very, very strong government relationship and maintain a close watch on the regulatory side as they are quickly changing. Also, I think it's important to remember that there is not one India strategy. As India is a huge country, you do need to take into consideration which state you're entering through. And lastly, remember to continue to innovate to capture the volume for India. But also what we see now is that Swedish companies are actually innovating in India and manufacturing in India for the world. How does Swedish and Indian business culture relate to each other? Well, first of all, I think there are certain critical success factors to when you're establishing and expanding your business in India. As we said before, India is not a country. It's more a continent full of customers, competitors, but also friends and colleagues. So I really try to apply a fact-based approach and develop a strategy for where you're entering and how you're supposed to grow your business in India. Enter India with a long-term view. Plan your establishment in different phases, and then please bring your best patience and perseverance. There are red tape, bureaucracy, but also lengthy procedures, for instance, when it comes to taxes and regulations. So be aware and yes, bring your patience. Doing business in India can be very tough. We all know that, and sometimes even frustrating. So do send your best woman or man for the job. When you hire, do it carefully and go for competence, but also attitude. Don't go for low cost. India can be extremely profitable to be in, but you do need a good price and cost strategy. Also, focus on your business objectives. Things might not always go according to the plan, so be flexible. Also be prepared to negotiate and train on that. That will come really handy both when it comes to business, but also privately. If you're in India with a partner, choose your partner wisely. It's very important to screen local partners very, very carefully. And also be aware if you choose to enter as a joint venture. Speak to people who've done it before or are experienced in this matter. When it comes to business culture, there are a few large differences to be aware of, but don't make them bigger than they are. In Sweden, we are always punctual. Actually, some of us are all prefer to be 5 or 10 or even 15 minutes ahead of schedule. Whereas in India, IST, I usually call it Indian stretchable time. The flexibility in the daily schedule is completely different compared to what we are used to. When it comes to assigning tasks, we in Sweden expect delivery as we have agreed. Whereas in India, they will prioritize based on how many times you send out or ask for reminders. In Sweden, we definitely separate business and work. However, in India, they're very interlinked, and you might be very quickly invited for a dinner at one of your business contacts. We are also a quite flat organization in Sweden, very informal relationship with your boss or other superiors. However, in India, values are very respected, but also hierarchy. In Sweden, we are quite direct. We tell the truth directly, whereas in India, issues are taken one-on-one and separately. So if I may give you some advice, when you come and do business in India, start by repeating your key messages several times. Then be prepared that things will take more time than you initially planned. So have more time at your expense than you think you will need. Also important to recognize the hierarchy and use it to your advantage. And then, once again, repeat your key message. So lastly, how can we at Business Sweden support you? Well, as you know, when it comes to entering the Indian market, we can definitely be your trusted partner and also your foot in the door. We have a team here in India, which consists of several large team of management consultants who work with a very unique mandate to help Swedish companies grow global sales, but also international companies to invest and expand in Sweden. Some of our consultancy services are market expansion, where we actually help you with your entering strategy. But we can also help looking for merger and acquisition targets within, in our case, India. We can also help you with sales acceleration, such as sales and partner performance management, or even partner search. As we have this unique mandate being owned both by the Swedish government and the private business, we are conducting business to government strategy services as well, such as stakeholder analysis, but also stakeholder engagement. We also have business incubation operations, which means we have space to sublet. We can help you with your accounting. We can take your employees on our payroll before you're incorporated in India, but we can also help you with all the incorporations and registrations that is necessary for you. And being SMEs, I'd like to really highlight what we can do for you in terms of export coaching, but also export validation services and the Catalyst program. These are all very subsidized programs that we are offering just for you. So with that said, I would like to say thank you very much. Are you in need or do you have more questions? Do let me or anyone in my team know. We are definitely here to help you. Thank you and good luck and welcome to India.
So great. I don't, since Cecilia is not here, I cannot thank her, but I will thank Anjali from Business Sweden for putting this together. And if you have any questions on this topic or on Business Sweden, please direct them to Anjali. And if you send them in the chat as well, I will bring it up at the end of the session. So let's see. Next up is Navratan. Hold on 1 second. So Navratan Kataria, he's the Director of Innovation, Entrepreneurship, IoT and AI at NASSCOM. And he will be speaking about Indian startups and NASSCOM's activities and support for startups. So please go ahead, Navratan.
Hello. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
All right. So we are heating up this tea for the 24th of April. And in this cooking, brewing the tea, please tell us if there are any follow-up questions. I will have to log off after this presentation, so the questions can come through our host. My name is Narottam Kataria. I take care of innovation partnerships across the borders and the startups engagement with the corporates. This is about NASSCOM. NASSCOM is an industry association of IT companies in India with 3,000 plus members, established 1988 and represents $250 billion technology industry in the country. What is good that our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi over here, has said this statement praising what the technology world can do for the country and the rest of the world. This is what I would like to cover it quickly. Some of my slides will run very fast, but people who can clap for all the speakers will get this slide. So you can clap virtually. So you don't have to take notes. I will share you the slides that I have. So this is what I would like to cover. And of course, what is very important for you to note is with the population that we have is the highest population in the world. We beat in China, and that gives us a lot of business opportunities in India. We must say that we have millions of problems, but that's a great opportunity for you to solve. We have a digital platform created by the government of India. And this is why I'm saying this. I'll spend a few minutes on this, because if you have to onboard a customer, it can be done all without papers. Their signatures can be e-verified. Their identity is known with the government, and that is utilized. Suppose you have to target an urban population or a rural population. Nowhere you need any paper business today. So that's the speed that you can get and scale up your business when you have these platforms running for you or any startup here. DigiLocker is where I don't carry any of my driving license these days. My mobile phone has a DigiLocker, which is an authenticated copy of all the documents, including my college education certificates and mark sheets and transcripts. They're all considered as good as a hard copy original because they're authenticated by the servers with the government. When we pay to the government, when we pay to a banana on a street, even if it is 5 cents, we don't have to pay any commission to a Citi or a MasterCard or a Visa card. It's from my bank to the bank of the vendor. And that brings out to that even if you have very small amounts of money transactions to be done, it goes without paying any commission. Within 10 seconds, you have the payment done from his bank to your bank. Neither of you get the information of the bank account. So that's privacy. We were unfortunately known for a very large number of tax types and different tax regimes. Today, every kind of tax, whether it's income tax, wealth tax, or VAT kind of thing, is all done electronically. There's no piece of paper left. So when you create invoices for your customers, or vendors, or suppliers, this is all done electronically. And the VAT, or the value-added tax, which is a credit to your input, is all taken into consideration when you start filing at the end of the month. Nobody has to do calculation. What is the input cost to me and what was the tax that I paid, which I should get a credit. It's all done automatically. So theoretically, you could get away with a chartered accountant till you grow to a very large scale. And these are the reasons why we feel that India has smoothened a large market opportunity for many of us. Not only that, because we deal with digital innovation, there's a large number of smartphone users. The numbers are so mind-boggling that we have realized that the population that we have beats a lot of continents on Earth. And it's not only the urban area. You will see we have a large number of rural population which is connected by the rural optical fiber cable, which means that you can have, just like urban population as your customers, rural customers as well. Not only that, if you're selling to SMBs or the small and medium-sized businesses, many of them thought going digital was fashionable, but today they consider that remaining competitive, they have to get into digital, which means that they're so well equipped to deal on digital platforms with startups that this is going to be something very smooth for your business transactions. Of course, the cost of internet is so inexpensive in India that we hardly consider this as part of any of our expenses. We deal, this is called Center of Excellence for IoT and AI, but we deal with all deep tech startups in the country and business to business, which you all know is a little tough, and they require the handholding right in the beginning of their growth period. There are 3,000 of them. Typically, these are the kind of technologies that they are in, and every year there's a new technology which is added in. We have the third largest ecosystem of unicorns after US and China. And I must say that the market is huge. The appetite for innovation is huge. There's a market, while the previous speaker said that it's a price sensitive market, but we have a huge middle class income people here. We have people who buy the Porsches of the world as well as the low cost car. So irrespective of which part of the business you're dealing with, there's a market for every kind of portion of the pyramid of the society. What used to be known in India was the destination for talent, but today it is a destination because of innovation. And not only innovation development, but also for the scale. And I must say scale just because of the sheer population that we have as a market potential for you. What corporates have been doing for ages now is that they have started talking to startups at a very accelerated path, and a lot of them have different agendas why they want to get involved with the startups. And of course, you all know probably, but what we love the most is the co-creation part. And the co-creation, because it's very important for a startup to match the needs of the corporates or the public sector, but at the same time, unless they sit together on the same table, they won't be able to match each other's requirements. So we call co-creation as the most critical part of the business, especially in deep tech and business to business. One good thing about last year was 50% more corporate engagements happened with the startups in the country, which means that it's a very ripe atmosphere or ecosystem for private enterprises also to start engaging, though they are slow, being multinationals, being very large, but they are moving on. You would realize some of these big logos, they run collaboration programs, corporate accelerators, or corporate venture arms. You're aware of these programs, but these are all happening in India. You can probably be in touch with somebody in India, and they may take you to their global market. So there's almost a saying that if you convince an innovation manager in India, in a corporate world, it's not only India your key market. It's the whole global could be your key market. So a lot of people are looking at coming into India for their global market potentials. Who are we? Center of Excellence is, we have three, if I can say, parents. We have Government of India, Minister of Electronics and IT. We have the states which we are in. Bangalore has the oldest center, which I represent. We have spent a lot of time, 80% of the time goes into connecting the startups to the adopters. When I say adopters, it may be public sector company, private enterprises, or SMEs, or whatever it is. But we have, in the last 7-8 years, we've done 440 industry use cases. And that is a big experience that we have gained over a period of time. This center has been inaugurated by the union ministers in past 2016. The people in this are the central and the state ministers for IT. We get a lot of delegations from across the board, and not only politicians, but industry related CXOs, academias, a little bit of prime ministers, very senior guys. And the reason I'm saying is that what I was saying about India now happens to be the stepping stone for a global market needs across all the 10 bilateral countries that we deal with, Sweden being one of them. And we get a lot of these. Not only that, we also get a lot of Indian bureaucracies. The picture that at the lower part of the picture is about very senior bureaucrats from 22 states, which is almost 3/4 of the country, coming to our center here to understand for 4 hours what they can adopt from the startups into the governance part or the public services part of it. And that's equally important because whatever it is, government is supposed to be a very big procurement or purchaser of innovations as well. So it is important for us to convince these bureaucrats that things are working and they are worth risk taking. Some engagement with the SISP, Ignite India and things like that. As I said, today we get almost every 6.5 days an international delegation. And that brings the fact that India is attracting the attention of innovators and the adopters from across the world. Every 6.5 days, in fact, I'm now heading straight to a Japanese Industry Association down in my office after this. Not only that they are very well exposed to the rest of the country, but these are the Prime Minister where our startups have got an eyeball and an engagement while we incubate startups in deep tech. But I must say, since we do not invest into any startup ourselves, we are unbiased and neutral to help and support any startup which walks into our office. And of course, we do soft landing as well. So these are the examples of monitoring and conserving water. We are known for yoga. So there's a yoga guy here. There's a non-prick based glucose or sugar monitoring. We work with defense. We work in health area. We work in public policy. These are 10 states of the country where we did low resource setting healthcare use cases. As I said, we soft landed. This is Japanese startup. We did post-COVID lung assessment in many states in the country, low cost. These are some of our incubators. I must say these are early stage, but they reasonably got very close to good funding and businesses. This is my last slide to show what are the kind of partners that we have who give us the use cases to solve, and we connect the startups to them. Thanks a lot for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Navratan. I know you have to log off, but I will take any questions that come up to you and bring them to you so you can answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up is Cecilia Olne from SIBC, or also known as Sweden-India Business Council. She will be speaking about opportunities and activities in the Sweden-India Business Corridor. So please, Cecilia, welcome up.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Excited to be joining you here today and speaking more about India. As you can tell, I'm not from India, I'm from Sweden, but I'm in Hyderabad today, where we are preparing for one of our initiatives, Sweden-India Innovation Bridge, that I'll speak a little bit more about as well later. But I thought, for you listening in from Sweden, looking at India as a market, I thought it could be interesting to understand how I ended up here. So a little bit on a personal note, I'm from Karlstad, but I decided about 16 years ago that I wanted to do something in India. I wanted to build something in India and really be part of a growing industry. And then I was looking at wine because that was a very nascent industry at that time. And I saw opportunities. So I joined a wine company, very different from what I'm doing today, but I joined them and then we built the company to become the largest wine company in India. So a little bit of a note on that, I guess, is that if you have a business or an idea and you feel that that's something that still is not there in India, but you can really make a change, you really can. And there are endless of opportunities to do so. And that, of course, also I would guess why you're a part of this Sweden-India match day with Ignite. Fast forward, after my journey in the wine industry, I joined Sweden-India Business Council to connect Sweden and India with different verticals. And Sweden-India Business Council is based in Sweden, but I'm in India where I'm the Chief India Representative. It's a team of 4. So we have Robin Sukia, who leads the organization as the CEO. He's based in Stockholm, half Swedish, half Indian. And then we have Arti Davis. She's Indian. She lives in Stockholm, and she's the CEO, and she also runs all our sustainable initiatives. So that's just a side note for all of you who are looking into sustainable practices and businesses. You need to connect with Arti at some point. And then we have Nisha Monu supporting us also from Mumbai. What we do are a few things, and that's also what I thought could be interesting for you to know. We're kind of a membership-led company, we're a knowledge company. So what we do is that we provide knowledge and network, and that's something that we built up over the last decades, so to speak, and not only within the team, but also with partners and with advisors. Not only in India, but also in Sweden, and that's about 20 of them, and so on. So again, we're knowledge and we're network. And how do we do this, and what have we created over the year? Yeah, Sweden-India Business Council is, where our members voice and advisors. And we also work with various partners. But I thought I could just run you through a little bit about the different verticals for you to understand a little bit more about how it all has come together and how you can potentially be involved in the future too, which we would love you to be. So maybe for the next slide, we have some pictures, and these are some pictures just to give you an idea and a flavor of again what we work around. So India-Sweden Business Leaders Roundtable is a CEO-led roundtable with 40 Swedish CEOs and 20 Indian, and we have the likes of it's only the global CEOs that can be part of it, but it was set up by the respective government to connect Sweden and India, and that happened in 2016. 40 again Swedish CEOs, that is everything from AstraZeneca to Saab to the Dean of KTH and the likes. And then we also have 20 Indian CEOs, which is the likes of, say, the CEO of Bharti Mittal to Tata Consultancy, etc. And what we do is that we connect them, and we do that through co-working groups. So we have co-working groups in the areas of defense, skilling, smart cities, and digitization. And on the Indian side, we have Baba Kalyani as the chairman. And then we have Marcus Wallenberg as the co-chair on the Swedish side. So we run the Swedish side, and CII is also on this call today. They are very active and run and are the secretary on the Indian side. Here you have some snippets of some of the meetings that we had. Of course, Robin Sukia is heading that within the Sweden-India Business Council organization. And then you have some other prominent people in this photo. I see Mr. Marcus Wallenberg himself, and also the Queen and the King of Sweden, who were a part of one of the roundtables here in 2019. Then we have gotten this whole machine down to also Gothenburg. So for you who are in Gothenburg, keep an eye on what we're doing. One of the events that we're doing is the Sweden-India AI Digitization Summit, where we get the likes of the members of ISPLET, India-Sweden Business Leaders Roundtable, to people speaking and coming up from India, and to, of course, the amazing startups that we work with in Sweden. And then we can move on to the next slide. Here is something that we realized is that we work very closely with, again, the CEOs, and work very closely with the government. But we wanted to connect these very important people and organizations with a startup ecosystem that is very close to my heart. So then we started something called Sweden-India Tech Community. And that is everything from individuals that represent, say, startups, scale-ups, grown-ups, academia, incubators, media, influencers, investors, government, and so on. And of course, a part of this community, we already have Ignite, and we have Vinnova, and we have Sting, and we have, of course, startups such as, Sana Labs, to grown-ups such as like the CTO of Ericsson, and then of course also in India, journalists, investors, government, Invest India, and FAM, NASSCOM, of course, not to be forgotten, Norrsken in Stockholm, KTH, TrustRace, and the list goes on. And CII, of course, is also part of this community. So that's something where I'm saying that to really collaborate and to make things happen between Sweden and India. Don't underestimate the power of communities and being part of communities and being part of networks. And there's so many of them, but this is one of them. And should you want to understand how you can get more involved as you're looking in India, I'm just a message away. So that's just a little bit more on Sweden-India tech community. Then we can move on to talking about CITES, that is headed by Artie Davis, who is, yes, as I mentioned earlier, based in Stockholm. And this is to connect everything from, CITES actually stands for Sweden, India Transport, Innovation and Safety. So it's a platform that connects the two countries, and that has, companies involved that are from everything from Volvo Group to Tech Mahindra to Manipal Hospitals, Rice, Autoliv, and it's very, very strategic way of connecting again two countries on a vision and a road towards a vision zero, road safety. And I'm just very amazed about what they're doing. If you are involved in that or want to be engaged in this initiative, you could also reach out to us, because again, you have so many different companies that you're representing here on the call today. So I know that everyone has different interests: AI, tech, e-mobility, gaming, for that matter. And then we will move on to the next slide. So here is something that I just quickly want to touch on, which is Sweden-India Innovation Bridge. Malin spoke about this also earlier, because this is where Vinnova is providing a grant of 25,000 crowns for scale-up and startups and scale-ups and SMEs. So there are some restrictions, but if you should be interested in coming and learning more about the AI digitization and see how India works with R&Ds and our 10x and just scaling often much faster than many other parts of the world. This is a learning program that goes 18 to the 22nd of November and visits to Hyderabad and Bangalore. And that's also why I'm in Hyderabad today, because we had a meeting today with T-Hub that I believe are also on the call, and T-Hub will be speaking more about what they are doing, and they're going to be a part of this match day on the 24th of April. One of the photos here are very much from T-Hub here in Hyderabad, which is a fantastic setup that you all should learn more about. The other photo, as we are now looking at photos, is from Bangalore and Art Park. Art Park stands for AI, Robotics and Tech Park in Bangalore, and they also do some fantastic works in AI and digitization, robotics, and so on. So literally, that's something you could potentially be a part of as well, to really get a fast track into India and learn more about, in particular, R&D, AI, and digitization. Again, 18th to the 22nd of November this year, Bangalore and Hyderabad. I think this is in short what we do and how we work again with the India-Sweden Business Leaders Roundtable, our members, Sweden-India Tech Community, Sweden-India Transport Innovation and Safety Platform. And then, of course, we have now recently developed this program, Sweden-India Innovation Bridge. Looking forward to working more with you. I know some of you are also very much in the space of gaming, which is another hat that I bear in India. I'm very much in tune to the immersive entertainment and gaming ecosystem, where I invest myself in gaming. So there are some connections and some interest opportunities in that space too, if you would want to learn more. But that's it, I think, for me. Thank you once again, Michelle, and I'm really excited to see so many on this call and seeing so many looking at India, because India is where I now have, decided to spend, almost 2 decades to make things happen. And I've never seen so much interest, and this is truly India's techade. So if you're looking at India, you're looking at the right place.
Thank you so much, Cecilia and SIBC. Let's move on. Thank you, by the way, you made us back on schedule, basically. So much appreciated. Let's see. So next up is CII, also known as Confederation of Indian Industry. Dr. Danish Hashim will speak on support to multinational companies in India. He is the chief of ease of doing business, MNCs and GVCs at CII. So please welcome up.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair, for this valuable opportunity. And so I would like to just, in fact, I could not, today only I was told that I have to make this presentation, so I could not actually prepare the slides, but I'll be happy to just actually mention about some of the reforms and the kind of business climate that we have in India. And if there are any follow-up questions, we'll be more than happy to, provide the answers. So to begin with, let me tell you that ease of doing business has been the key priority of the government of India over the last several years. And so out of that reason, in fact, right from 2014, several reforms have been implemented. And so ease of doing business on the ground also started improving. And that was reflected in our improvement in World Bank doing business ranking, which went on improving from 2014 when we were doing at, say, 140. And then we improved to 63 in 2020 when this last report came. And even otherwise, there is a general perception that businesses face less burden across states. And there is a heavy degree of facilitation by central government as well as the states. And a number of electronic platforms are being actually provided to actually to expedite, say, approval processes or say registration processes or licenses and all, and even to take, say, grievances actually. Just to mention, even before I come to the basic ease of doing business reform which have been actually implemented by the government of India, I would like to also mention that what kind of services we provide on ease of doing business and also on MNC, both are under me in CII. So one is that we have ease of doing business task force. CII task force on ease of doing business, which is chaired by Mr. Ajay Shriram, who is chairman and managing director of DCM Shriram. And members actually comprise of mostly, say, chairman, co-chairman of different states and union territories of India. Cutting across sectors as well as region. So idea here is that you actually, because ease of doing business at different places in India, every state is like a country here. So what we attempt to do is that we try to collect feedback from different parts of the country and take this through, government for resolution. So the way we function here is that, in central government, there is a department called DPIT, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, which is a nodal department for introducing ease of doing business reform, not only in the central government ministry, but also at the state level. They sort of actually provide guidance to the states that you implement these reforms, that reforms, and then they also actually assess their performance on annual basis. So that provides a sort of what you call encouragement for the states to actually implement those reforms. So we collect feedback from members. We on different areas of ease of doing business. Some of the areas, for example, it could be like grant of approvals, permission, etc., etc. Secondly, it may be related to, say, your compliance burden, which is a major issue even now. That businesses, they end up spending a lot of time actually in complying with so many laws. Like, for example, in labor only, we have over 44 central government labor laws, and at the state level, you may have over 200 laws to comply with. So you can understand the enormity of the compliance burden that we have. So there is an attempt to also, there's an attempt to actually rationalize the regulatory compliance burden. So we collect feedback on that. And then third area we work on is enforcing contracts. Despite continuous effort being made, we still have actually long way to go as far as expediting dispute resolution is concerned. But we are making good progress on that front. We are trying to actually open dedicated commercial benches in different, at least in metropolitan cities, to make sure that businesses, they actually get the issues resolved in a timely manner. And beside that, there is also a very dedicated effort to actually sort of encourage disputing parties to actually get into ADR mechanism, alternative dispute resolution, through say arbitration or through say mediation, etc. So that is also being leveraged to a large extent, but I would still say that there is still a long way to go. So we actually we sort of try to provide facilitation there as well. And beside that, we also collect issues from businesses across sectors, across states on a range of other areas. That includes, for example, land, getting land and all that, and suppose then environment related compliances or construction permits. So host of areas actually. And then we work with nodal agency, as I said, central government, and then central government in turn, work with the state government to resolve those issues. So that's how we work as part of CII Task Force on Ease of Doing Business. And the other committee, and which is pertinent for our members to actually, our participants here to understand, and that is CII National Committee on MNCs. So it's a very dedicated committee of CII, which is actually to take care of issues, specific issues of foreign companies operating in India. So it is called CII National Committee on MNCs, and it has been in existence for last several years. So idea here is actually the broad idea is to have two objectives served. One is that you actually identify the specific issues of multinational companies which are operating in India, and sort of provide them platform to come deliberate and identify and take up those issues with the government of India or with the respective state government. This is one. And second idea behind having this platform is that you also create awareness about contributions made by foreign companies in India. That is also not very easily available in terms of data and all that. For example, multinational companies may be contributing by way of their CSR activities, or say by contributing to health, education funds and all that, or even say providing skills and all. So those are a part of CSR activities. So those aspects should also be covered. It's not that multinational companies, they come in India just to make profit and repatriate that profit back to their country, but they also in a way work shoulder to shoulder with domestic counterparts and contribute to India's growth and development story. So we try to provide a level playing field to MNCs at par with their domestic counterpart, and that is our main objective. So this committee also comprises of members. So it is actually chaired by Mr. Sunil Mathur, who is Managing Director of Siemens India. And it has membership of over 100 MNCs from across the globe and from across sectors. And we identify issues like, for example, some of the issues may pertain to say transfer pricing in the direct taxes, or say intellectual property right, or standards, or dispute, etc., etc. And we also try to actually facilitate them in terms of getting their FDI approval. Or any issue they may be facing in the state with the state government approval process, or they connecting them with our membership also. That could also be our this thing. So these are the two platforms that are under me right now. And beside that, I also look after GBC, but that is not directly connected, so I'll skip that. And I'll come to the main agenda, this thing, that what are basic reforms that have actually been introduced. So one is that, India is a vast size country, and getting approval, for example, suppose you have made investment in, say, one state, say Tamil Nadu, and you are also making investment in other part, say in North, maybe say in Punjab. So it becomes so difficult to, and then two states are very much different in terms of requirements of, in terms of both economic as well as social or say regulatory environment and all that. So in order to provide a sort of, uniformity to businesses who are operating at different places, what we suggested that there should be a common platform so that as a businessman or as an investor, you don't have to actually run from one state to another to understand what are the rules, regulations, and all that to make investment in a particular sector. So now Government of India in 2021, about 3 years back, they launched what is called a National Single Window System. National Single Window System. And what it does is that it integrates the single window system of all the states. And there, if you have to make investment, for instance, suppose in Tamil Nadu, all you have to do is that you just go to this portal and there you will find a common application. You make the application, because when you are making application, there are some approvals which may actually relate to some ministries in central government, and some approvals they may relate to different ministries and layers of government at the state level. So here the idea is that all approvals you don't have to actually seek at different levels. So in just common application form, you make the application, and this application is actually tracked, or rather supposed to be tracked, and then you are supposed to get timely approval. Earlier, what would happen is that once you have taken, for example, if I can say, suppose you are seeking approval for consent to establish COE. Relating to environment. So that may take 6 months. And then once you are about to start your business, and prior to that, you again go and seek the approval related to consent to operate, that may take another 6 months. So here the idea is that all approvals have to actually start in parallel, whether they relate to one ministry or other ministry or say state government or whatever. So National Single Window not only provides you platform to seek approvals from across the states and across sectors, but also it facilitates you with information that if you are making investment in a particular sector, then what are the approval requirements? What is the fee? What is the tentative time that would be taken for seeking approval? So it's a very comprehensive, but I must also mention that right now it is still evolving. Government is seeking our feedback on regular basis, that which other sectors is still not very effective on the portal, because here central ministries have to actually cooperate, here state government also have to actually work in a very efficient manner, and then central government sort of provides this platform and makes sure that all approvals are actually granted. So it is evolving, but I must say that in case you have not seen this portal, then you must visit and make use of it. And if there is any feedback that your sector is not covered here, and it is especially useful even for say startups actually. So your sector is not covered here, then you please let me know, and we'll work with DPIT and request them to actually make them also introduce on this portal. So this is about National Single Window System platform as far as ease of doing business is concerned. Other thing is about, as I just indicated earlier, that we have a system of, and that's a very unique system. I'm not sure how many other countries they do have, but here in India, we adopted a system called Business Reform Action Plan, because here center cannot dictate its term to states that you have to do this reform or that reform. So what they started doing was that they started issuing guidelines to state that you implement these reforms, those reforms, and a set of say 200, 300 reforms every year. And if a state has implemented those reforms, then they will get scores based on that. And if they have not, then they will lose the scores. And based on that, their ranking would be prepared and put that, in public domain. So states, in order to avoid embarrassment and say, investors, because most of the time investors would actually be guided by those kind of ranking. So they started working on their own and taking the suggestions from DPIT seriously. So that is about competitiveness across the states, and that's in place for last more than a decade about. And then we have another platform for land. Land is not very easy to procure in India. And because, in different pockets of India, you have different rules, regulations, and in some states, it's a very sensitive subject also. So there is a attempt by central government to provide an integrated platform. So again, you don't have to run from one state to another. You just sitting on your desktop, you can find out where the land is available, who is the nodal person to be contacted for that, what is the procedures, what is the tentative price of land. So we are creating that platform, and this platform is called India Industrial Land Bank, IILB. And so that is also evolving. But beside that, I must also mention that states have their own state banks. And especially for businesses coming in from other countries, they provide a sort of red carpet welcome, and they make sure that you do not face much problem in procuring land, and you get to start as quickly as possible. And other than that, since it is a land issue, I must also mention that we are also creating lots of industrial parks in different parts and parcels of the country. And here our attempt is to provide a ready to work kind of environment, what is also popularly known as the plug and play kind of infrastructure. So we do have, and that is also evolving very fast, and it's a very conscious effort of the India government to make this as efficient as possible. Other thing I must mention is about decriminalization of business laws. So what would happen, or rather happens in most of the cases, that suppose you miss a deadline for submission of a particular say compliance, then you may be served a notice, and then there may be a FIR against you, and then there may be a criminal case against you, and if you lose it, then you are behind bars, even for minor offenses. So this was something which was a big deterrent for most of the businesses, actually, that for serious offenses, that is fine. But for minor offenses, it should actually be replaced with penalty rather than all this, just like when you cross, jump a red light, you don't have to actually face the risk of going to jail. You simply pay the penalty, and then you sort this out. So we suggested, or rather we have been advocating to the government of India that at all minor offenses in businesses, they need to be actually replaced with penalty. And government has started working on that. And last year, you might be aware that we passed what is called as Jan Vishwas Act 2023. And by doing that, we actually decriminalized as many as 183 laws in just one go. And now we are working on the next phase of this act. And that is we are again providing input to the government, and we are attempting to actually decriminalize the rest of the laws at the central government level. And thereafter, we actually intend to take this to the state level laws also, decriminalization of state laws, minor offenses. And so then the other thing that is important for you is about reforms in trade facilitation, export-import process. So there also we have done very good in the last few years, and our ranking has also substantially improved from say 144 in 2014 to 63 in 2020. And so here, cutting across all segments, like for example, covering all stakeholders, like for example, clearinghouse agents, or say container freight stations, or say shipping liners, or say custom. So we are making attempt to actually integrate all these stakeholders on a single platform and make the entire process as much digitized as possible. So at number of ports, we have been able to do that. And one of them is our Jawaharlal Nehru Port Terminal, which is the busiest terminal in India and located in Mumbai. So you will see that all the major ports and customs in India, there is a rapid transformation and reform taking place, and we are making sure that the process is digitized, your grievances are actually taken seriously, and there is also a risk management system based kind of clearance. In fact, many of the ports, I am happy to share that they have started adopting a risk-based management system. Here, once my time is up, you may just let me know 2 minutes in advance.
Yes, we're actually, I kindly ask you to round it up.
Okay, so I would have 2 minutes.
If you could keep it at 1, please do so.
1 minute, okay. So trade facilitation, we have lots of reforms, and then labor, as I mentioned, is a very complex area in India. So we have passed acts and introduced 4 labor codes. So I think post-election, we are about to implement this across the state. So that will actually simplify our compliances with regard to labor. And so taxation also, we have done lots of reforms as far as compliance is concerned. Taxation, much of the problems have been resolved, but there is still a long way. So overall, what I wanted to mention is that ease of doing business is a long journey. And we are actually striving to make ourselves as one of, at least among the top 10 in the world in next few years. And so even now, I think we would be among top 40. And so we are improving in all the areas, and especially in areas like, for example, land acquisition, in enforcing contracts or labor compliances, where we are still not doing so well. But overall, we remain focused on ease of doing business reforms, and as CII, we work closely with central as well as the state government in facilitating for implementation of reform. Thank you so much for your patience, and back to you, Chairman.
Thank you so much, Dr. Danish. I would like to ask you if you are able to send over the links in the chat for example, the National Single Window Platform, IILB, any way for the startups to find those platforms and tools. I would love that. So thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to questions, everyone. I've seen that there's not a lot of questions, and I'm guessing because it's slightly overwhelming, all of this information. But hopefully you got some value out of it. I can personally attest to all the speakers here being very competent, and their organizations actually do provide support for startups and people coming to India and people wanting to work with India. So I would really recommend keeping these in mind, and especially for you who have meetings next week, it's a no-brainer contacting these organizations to help and support you in that journey. It doesn't matter if these particular meetings don't pan out to be business for you, but it's definitely time now. So if you have any questions, send them over. Otherwise, I would like to move on and talk a little bit about Ignite and the matchmaking for next week. Everybody who already knows of Ignite knows as well. I can see some familiar faces or names here. Feel free to log off. Don't put any more time. The most important thing was listening to the partners we had speaking. So anybody who feels like staying, send any questions, and otherwise we'll talk about Ignite and the matchmaking. Hopefully that sounds good. I'll keep an eye on the chat if something pops up. I know a lot of the startups know about Ignite and some of the ways in which we work might be less known, I'm guessing. And also I realize this might not be super interesting for other speakers. I would like to really thank you. If you want to log off now, that is fine as well. I really appreciate the help you put out for startups, and in particularly here today. So thank you so much. So moving on to how we work, I think it's important to realize that. I know there are a lot of questions popping up concerning that subject. So what we do, we have basically a five-step process where we always start with working with the corporates and public sector members, looking at their innovation challenges, areas, use cases, problem statements for a one-year term and also a long-term view on that. So we start by looking at that. We document their needs in different workshops and really dig deep into how they what they actually need and what problems actually need solving, and what is not only symptoms of actual problems, so to say. So while when we have those needs, we start looking at the startups available to us in our platform, and that's why a lot of you might have been in our platform for a few years and did not even think about Ignite for a few years. We can still find you and offer you that opportunity to meet with a potential customer. So that's the matching side of it, where we set up those meetings, and hopefully those meetings lead to follow-up meetings that in the end turn into POCs, pilots, and what have you, in the hopes of reaching long-term commercial collaborations. I'll skip the last step for now. I won't go too much into this, just mentioning that the way we work is not always super clear on having an existing problem and an existing solution that fit and that is in the right industry. We also get creative on it. So we look at how can new solutions add to existing or new older problems, and how can we look at, okay, what problems are gonna pop up as a matter of, as a reason for what we're doing now and the decisions we make. So that is why sometimes it might not be super clear on why a corporate wants to meet a startup. I know I have a lot of conversations about this in our brief calls. Sometimes it pops up. Why are we meeting these? Why do they want to meet us? We always have something in mind. So rest assured. We got those links from Dr. Danish. Perfect. Yes, moving on. These are the types of startups we have in our database. We work a lot in the sectors of environment and energy, life science, software, industrial technologies, but we also work in agriculture, so all the way from farm to table, and a lot of entertainment companies as well. And many of these are building their businesses on their own, but a lot of these are also have also been previously incubated or are incubated at the moment. So we have some upcoming match days that might be interesting for some of you. All of the ones taking place before this summer, we have the applications closed for that, but we have some really interesting match days in the fall as well. So if you want to keep track of those, either log into your Magic profile or scan this code. So yeah, that's basically all. I would love for all of you to connect with me with LinkedIn if you see any interest in doing that. You also have my phone number and my email. I'm very accessible, so please let me know if there's anything I can do to help, any questions you might have, or anything you want to do and need our help to do, basically. Great, so thank you all for listening and joining this session. Hopefully it turns out that this was of value for you, not only in connecting you to the different organizations, but also the knowledge that you've gained listening to this. I will send out a recording of this video, of this session, to you all as soon as it's finished downloading. I will also send the relevant links that the speakers have provided to you. Otherwise, good luck on your meetings next week. We'll probably send out some more information and bother you again about that, all in the hopes of preparing you and having that lead to business for you, so to say. And just to mention, next week in the introduction session, I know not all of you are able to join that, but those of you who are, you will be listening to our friends at T-Hub talking about what they have to offer for startups and their organization. We will also have a representative from TrustRace that Cecilia mentioned, speaking on how to work as a multinational company and how to work in the Sweden-India corridor, so to say. So again, thank you all. Let me know if there's something I can do for you. Get in contact. Otherwise, I'll see you next week.